That's fine.
Anything if I exit?
People come in and out.
Okay.
Yeah, it's almost like coming into a room, people chit-chatting. I just I try to create a topic because I've been in some discussion groups where they don't like have any particular direction. It's like, do you have a problem and can we solve it? I'm like, that's pretty big. So it's one of these things, if you put limits on stuff, it tends to create creativity. So sort of like COVID.
Absolutely.
Look at his hair. You can tell by Richard's hair.
I have constant comments on my hair, guys. So I welcome any discussion on problem solving.
All right, where are we going here? Okay, so all right, yeah. So this is my little like welcome to Friday Flow. This is Adam, and this is Friday Flow for entrepreneurs. We're got the wrong label down here. It's not scheduled priorities. Great. All right, so let's fix that. Wow, this is a true behind the scenes sort of deal. How do I escape out of this thing? There, that's thought I got everything already. Oops, that was wrong. Instead of pushing, so you guys know the difference between pushing Control V and Shift Control V. There's if you push Control C is copy, Control V is paste. Most people know that, but Shift Control V means it pastes with the same format. So you notice when I put it in there first, it was huge, but then when I pasted it in again, I Control Z, which undoes, and then I pushed Shift Control V, and then it kept the same format that the one before had.
That's handy.
Yeah, it's really quick, especially for people like me that make those sort of mistakes. Then I can go back and fix it. Great. All right. So warts and all, that's great stuff. Okay, we're gonna go back here to my presenter view. So
if you want one more hack,
yeah.
F11.
What's that?
If you want one more hack, press F11.
That full screen?
If you're in Chrome, there you go. You know it already, never mind.
Well, I sort of do. I didn't think about it. Oh. Whoa, what's that? Oh, that's the wrong one. Just brought up some other thing. I'm also on a Mac, which like is not my native area. So I'm not sure if I have to push like function and then F11. But it just, on the Mac, all it does is gives a screen like sorry. It moves everything. Yeah. You're probably on a PC, right?
Nope.
No? Oh, you're just in Chrome? Well, I know on the Mac, because I loved that button. But Command F is full screen. Now that's fine. That didn't work. I don't know what it is. Anyway, there's
railed you. I'm sorry.
Command F. Oh, it was Shift Command F. On a Mac. Beautiful. This Mac anyway. So I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why it doesn't work on this. It might be because I've got a MacBook Air. I don't know. But so back to flowing. But I'm Adam Sparks Brechtel, and I have a company called Sparks Flow, where I try to help people to increase the flow around them, which is this idea that you're at your peak performance and you're really enjoying life when you feel like you're making progress and your skills match the challenge. One way or the other, you're either bored or you're anxious. So I help businesses move their spaces around and change habits and routines and teamwork to make the flow like really spot on. So that's my joyful thing to do. And that's pretty much all I'm looking for. So Lisa, since you were first on, would you introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, my name is Lisa McGarry. My company is Proficient Financial Management. We offer advisory, tax, bookkeeping, payroll services for small to mid-sized businesses. And we have just opened up our New Mexico office, so this is exciting. We've been and we've existed for 12 years in Texas already.
Wow, cool. So wait, you say you opened up here. Is that so it's a franchise, or how's that work? Are you?
No, I'm the co-founder.
Uh-huh.
We founded this company in Texas 12 years ago, and I wanted to leave Texas. So I'm still managing the Texas office, but I'm also starting a new office here. We're virtual, so we kind of,
Everywhere.
yeah, we are everywhere anyway. Basically, wherever my office is, there we are.
Cool. Thanks, Lisa. All right, Cody.
Hey guys, my name is Cody Pearson. I'm calling in from Denver today. I have had 1 foot in Colorado and 1 foot in New Mexico for about the last 15 years. So with COVID going on, I've just only been up in Denver since March 3rd. And really excited to get back to New Mexico. A lot of my experience down there has been working with Los Alamos National Lab and Sandia, a couple other private companies. And just wanted to check in today. So Adam, thanks for setting this up, because it's really great to start hearing from the New Mexico folks again.
Great.
And really the thing that I want to put out there is during this time, I do consulting, business consulting. My last position was with the technology area at Western Union Corporate. But during this time, I've seen some need here in Denver and want to start getting it out there to the New Mexican folks. Is there's a lot of nonprofits and small companies right now that are just having issues with figuring out how to deal with the impact of COVID and the quarantine and limited resources and everything. So this is not promoting myself as the consulting side. This is just me wanting to, keep my skills sharp and folks.
Yeah.
So if you hear nonprofits or people who need something with more like business acumen or anything to do with intellectual property or just small IT tech focused things, they're looking for maybe some alternatives. I have my fingers in about everything business wise, so more than happy to help.
That's cool. So when you say acumen, is that like
Skills.
a type of person?
Acumen is like having the skills and abilities. That's a different word for skills and abilities.
Oh, cool. It's a new word now for me. I got like my daily word gotten down. That's great. Thanks, Cody.
Sure.
Yeah, and I'd like to talk a little bit more about how you're in my sort of like, because a lot of people call what I do consulting too, and so I'd like to like feel out the difference you see there too. But
There's all flavors of it, and I just put my link down there so you guys can find me later, connect with me. LinkedIn's kind of the shortest path for those things, but more than happy to brainstorm one-on-one or answer some questions for you. Yep.
Thanks, Cody.
Sure.
And Richard.
Yo, hey guys, good morning, and thanks for doing this, Adam. I've got a little winding story. I just we bought a house in Albuquerque. I've been a filmmaker, director, doing mostly commercials and music videos for over 20 years in Los Angeles. And then my wife is from Albuquerque, and we've decided when politics changed a few years ago, we decided to sell our house at the top of the market and relocate. We have a 6-year-old, and relocate back to Albuquerque. And we bought a house here and started renovating it with the idea that we'd move there in a year or so. Well, my wife works for a Fortune 500 company called Brechtel. They're a massive conglomerate. They own a lot, and she does luxury real estate shopping experiences. And we hadn't told them about the house in Albuquerque yet, and they made an offer for us to move to New York. And she kind of narrowed it down to 2 years, which was so we went out to New York last summer, and we were going to be there for 2 years and then move back to Albuquerque when the house is done. Well, in March, we decided to escape, and we in our house coincidentally was finishing right about that time. So we are in Albuquerque, so.
This is a designed house for you?
What's that?
You're in a house designed specifically for you?
Well, we renovated it. Yeah.
Okay.
And so so anyway, we weren't supposed to be here for another year. And well, anyway, while I was in New York, on the way to New York, I've got into augmented reality, and it kind of came about through a Beastie Boys pitch I was working on. Kind of like I came up with this idea for like a Meow Wolf Beastie Boys thing, and really got into AR. And coincidentally, New York wants to be the Silicon Valley of augmented reality. It's going to be so huge, and they're all about it. And I started kind of going to this place called R Lab, which the city of New York started in the Brooklyn Navy Yards, and it was anything to do with AR, an incubator, accelerator, and networking. And they had a hackathon. And most hackathons are for, you know, programmers and engineers and whatnot, but they had opened it up to storytellers and creatives. So I went, and I came up with an idea, and my team that I was paired up with went with it, and we ended up being a finalist. And it was regarding climate change. This was back in September, a week before the big march, global march. And
real quick, what was the name of that hackathon?
it was called Stories.
I lost you.
By so it's called R Lab, and it was called Stories of the Future.
Okay.
And it was organized by a team called Garage Stories, which great ideas of innovation come out of garages. So the idea was just, I think is amazing. And it ended up being featured at Governor's Island and in Barcelona for an impact forum there. And then we were supposed to go to Berlin for a global impact conference, one of the biggest ones. And then also Earth X in Dallas, which was supposed to be in April. Well, all these things canceled, of course. In the meantime, though, I've been working on and trying to educate myself on how to do a startup. And you know, I've got my big deck all created now, and I'm ready to go. But then everything went into hibernation, so I'm trying to figure out, should I just start over from scratch in Albuquerque, in which that's what I'm doing right now. I'm like going through meetups and LinkedIn and trying to figure out who's who in that world, whether it's augmented reality, engineers to investment in different funds and everything. I keep coming back to Adam, of course, in the different ways, and here I am. So I'm doing my flow and learning everything I can about who's who in Albuquerque, Santa Fe, everywhere. And I've been doing that, you know, for the last. Yeah, there you go. Thank you for bringing that up.
Thank
Good
you.
job, Adam.
Yeah.
DJing right there. Woohoo!
I try, you know. Also, when I hear these things, oh, that sounds really cool. So I did a hackathon too a while back. So
did you? Yeah, they're fun.
Yeah.
So
Thank you, Richard.
that's my story.
Yeah. And so you're trying to figure out your next step right now, is what you're basically doing. Yes.
So I've got the idea that I came up with it. What you're looking at on the screen. It's called StrikAR. And it was inspired. It was a weekend hackathon, and Friday night they had speakers that would marinate us on different impact. You know, people from the city of New York, working for, you know, De Blasio and the state, everything, and just talking about climate change and whatnot. Well, one of the speakers was this gal, Alexandria Villaseñor, and she is basically the American counterpart to Greta Thunberg. And she was the first one in America to start doing the Fridays for Future strikes by herself. And I saw her a year before on MSNBC, and I was sitting in my butt on a couch on a Friday, and they did a thing on her, and I just started crying. And my wife and I donated some money, and that was like, you know, whatever, you know, almost a year and a half ago or whatever. And then I hadn't thought much of it, but I keep up with the news. And then there she was at this hackathon speaking right in front of me. And I had come to the hackathon with all these ideas. I'm pretty creative. And I was like, oh, I got all these great ideas I can push on my team. But then I didn't realize she was speaking. And I was like, oh my gosh, I I want to do I got to come up with an idea for her. And, you know, she's like, I think she's like 17 now, and just amazing. And it was a week before the giant climate strike that happened back in late September. And the last thing she said was, please come to the strike next Friday in New York City. But if you can't make it, anything you can do helps. And it just like hit me in the heart again. And I was like, God, I gotta come up with an idea as fast as possible. And like a lightning bolt, the idea came to me as I'm walking in. I'm a team, and we sat down at a table, and I was like, guys, I have this crazy idea. And can I say, tell it to them? And basically the concept is, for those who can't go to an actual protest or strike, think of like little kid, younger kids that their mom and dad, or they're in rural towns or whatnot. They can't always go to New York City or the big capital of your state and participate. And they're probably sharing everything they can, the little hearts out on Facebook and whatnot, and supporting all they can. Why not be able to send, probably gives you superpowers, and why not be able to send an avatar of yourself or a protest sign to a geolocated strike? And the folks there can hold up their phone, and above the crowd in the sky can see the thousands of people, supporters, and, kind of create that image. And then it becomes a whole social thing. And the idea just, the more you got into it, the more you realize that this is a company.
I'm gonna
that can make change.
Check the.
And so that's what we did. And that was the idea. We came up with a demo in, 24 hours, and I'm still working on it. But right now it's kind of in hibernation. I want to start over and build a team. And then in the meantime, I've got this other, I always knowing I was coming to New Mexico, I've been coming up with lists and lists of augmented reality concepts to help the state of New Mexico with tourism and whatnot. And so I'm working on that as well.
It's pretty cool. I guess I joined in just before Janet, and I'll go ahead and go while Adam is
Yeah, go for it.
disposed. I'm Rob Hill with VanDyk Mortgage, and we do 1 to 4 unit real estate. My story is, I was in the military, 6 years active duty, currently in the National Guard, working on aircraft maintenance with the Osprey here in New Mexico, or rather at Kirtland. So yeah, that's what I currently do on the weekends, once a month, and did before I do mortgages. I wanted to jump into real estate and investing in real estate and everything. That was kind of my foot in the door. And it's kind of a nice benefit right now to being able to help families get into homes and stuff like that. So that's what I do.
Nice. Thanks, Rob. And Rob's been a continuous visitor, so I'm great to have him back. And Janet is also returning. You ready, Janet?
I love her photo.
Yeah.
It made me feel good when I was talking.
That's great. Yeah. So Janet is, I met her at a networking thing, Network After Work. And so she works with people about confidential stuff. So she's not gonna give a whole bunch of information about herself, but I'm glad to have her on, and we'll see if she walked away as well, and maybe you'll come back or is just listening in today.
Hello, but I just came in from the grocery store and realized I had to get grassy because I got cement poured, and and of course how that goes, and you're trying to wash everything off, and then my dog had to go to the bathroom, so it's just one thing after another. Sorry, Adam.
No, it's fine. I did
hear part of the presentation, though. I did come in and I hear part of the presentation.
Sort of Richard introducing himself. Well, I haven't even gotten to my initial parts because we have such an exciting introduction to everybody. But yeah, I actually just left too because you might be hearing banging. I have people working on my roof.
Yeah.
So they were the ones at the door just checking on something. So
yeah. It only breaks down when you need it.
Yeah.
Excitement of life and live video. All right, go for it. What could you tell a bit about yourself? And again, I told him you deal with confidential stuff. So
right. I'm a counselor in Michigan, and retired teacher and kind of starting this new as an independent contractor working for 2 agencies. And I just think they need better marketing, and I think we need better ways to write case notes. So I kind of came on looking to see how people market, and you know, if anybody's an IT specialist, they could make a lot of money if they patent some way to do good case notes.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you, Janet. All right, so I'm laughing because in my mind, the part I'm about to do should have happened like in the first 10 minutes. But I think that the attendees are the most important thing of this. So I'm glad that this went as long as it did too. And I know that Cody, you might have to leave us here soon. So that's okay if you have to go, but also happy to have you stick around. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen again. And I've got to find my screen. Okay, so we did that part. So the next guy is enjoyment leads to problem solving, which is, I try to figure out a topic every week to kind of like, you know, direct this. And some kind of are random and some are like have a deeper meaning. And this is one in particular for me. This is why I started my business, is because I want people to be able to problem solve. And if you're in the flow, if you're feeling really great about stuff, you're more likely to problem solve better. And so then I have my sparks for discussion, which is not, oh, that's right, because this is, I did this fancy thing. Okay. Now, just so you know, my confusion as I'm looking at this, I have the presenter view up, and it shows slightly different things than what you're seeing. So I'm pretty sure in front of you, you see table and rope, right? Do you see that now? Yes? No? Nobody's seeing table and rope. Okay.
No.
Are you seeing
yet.
anything? No, apparently
Yes.
not. Okay. So there we go.
Table and rope.
There we go. Table and rope. So this is talking about, there's a TED Talk I saw, and I tried to find it, and I was having a hard time finding it. But I listened to it a long time ago, and I've listened to it a couple times. And I tend to forget how I got to it. But there's a TED Talk, and the guy talks about solving problems and how there's this lab test where people come into a room and they're told 2 different scenarios at the beginning. And tell me if you've heard this before. But the first one is that they come in and they said, this is a test about your intelligence, so that we can determine how smart you are for the rest of your life. And the other one they tell is like, they put a box of chocolates or something on a table, and both rooms are the same except for the chocolates. And they say, you know, we've got this fun game for you to try. So the first one, they tell them both the same thing, that what they need to do is they have these 2 ropes hanging from the ceiling. So these 2 ropes coming down, and they say you have to connect the 2 ropes together, right? That's what you have to do. And these people are struggling to get the ropes put together, and just, you know, freaking out, especially the people who are told that this is like, you know, a life-determining test, right? And they're trying as hard as they can. They're trying to reach to each one. You know, they get one, they can't walk over and get to the other. All this sort of nonsense, right? And then, but the ones that usually just solve it are the ones that see it as a game. And what they do, and so in case you're in this test, you'll have the answer. Does anyone know how to solve this?
No.
They pull the table over, get on the table, and then they have enough slack to tie them together.
Nice.
Yeah. And it was because they were actually like seeing it as something to enjoy, something to do, as opposed to like this like brain collision of like, oh, I need to show that I'm really brilliant.
Yeah.
And unfortunately did the very opposite. So it's a driving cause of why I do what I do. So another one, this is sort of related. It's also another test. This one comes from a book, and I'll post this in a moment, called Drive by Daniel Pink. And Cookie Manners is, he has a whole bunch of tests he talks about. But this one he talks about how, people are prepped differently. So they're supposed to remember something, or they're supposed to look at something. And the idea is if you know, oh, actually there's 2 cookie ones, and I'm trying to remember which one I want to talk about. But I'm going to talk about the one where they're sitting there and they have to so one they're treated nicely, and they say, okay, so there's these cookies here, but you're gonna have to not eat them. And the truth is, I might be mixing up these stories, but it's still a great story. You can look up at Daniel Pink. And so the manners one, they're really nice to the person, and they tell them kind of why they're doing the test. And then the other one, they just say, don't eat the cookies. And by the end of the test, then they're supposed to do this like attention deal, where they're supposed to like do a standard test of like click a button every time you see a certain pattern on the screen. And the ones that you were nice to, even though they had to like hold the energy by not looking at the cookie or eating the cookies, they still did a great job. Whereas the people that were just told abruptly, like, don't eat the cookies and there'll be another test coming, they did the test, and they did worse, because this is the assumption, is because they didn't feel involved. They didn't feel like they're part of the operation, right? It wasn't quite the human element. So that's a sort of a that's another way you can enjoy things. Oops. Oh, whoa, there we go. We're getting there. There. Okay. And seeing progress is another way you enjoy things. And this is a big thing about flow, which I talk about a lot, because it's another key thing. It's a key reason why I started what I do. And the Csikszentmihalyi is a psychologist who published this book called Flow, Optimal Experience, How to Live Your Life at Optimal Experience. And he says one of the ways you can really get in flow is you can see progress happening. So like Richard, when you were working on your house, you could see it growing along. So it was like something that involved you, right? And the great thing about it in my mind is that it also can work the other way. Even if you don't see progress, you're aware like what's happening in that, that you have some sort of capability to say, oh, I'm at least learning from it, right?
Right.
So, yeah. So those are those. I'm gonna stop this screen sharing, but I'm gonna paste those couple links on there on the screen. So, all right. Does anyone have any antidotes where they've seen that in their own lives?
Yeah, I mean, just after the hackathon, a little mojo.
Yeah.
And I was doing everything. I'm doing everything bootstraps, and my main lead programmer, that we had some distance issues. He was in Jersey, and whenever he had some free time, but he had family and he has to pay the bills and stuff. So trying to do this, trying to develop the technology, would have like some movement and then no movement, and it was just the challenges of things, and seeing you would see progression and then no progression, and it's difficult unless you can just throw money at it, or you have someone totally devoted like that I was that I could do on the side when I wasn't shooting commercials, and then likewise. So there's definitely some reflection, hearing your antidote there.
Cool. Yeah, and that's one of the things I liked about hackathon was like the whole thing of like hacking, right? Or the creathon, the whole idea is like, this is supposed to be like using your brain in a new way and like interact with people, so you really feel involved and it's enjoying. It's a really neat setup.
Well, it's got a time, a ticking, the time clock's going, and there's no choice but to progress unless maybe there's some kind of dead end, or you run into an issue. But it's really amazing to watch all the teams, usually make it to some finish line for themselves, and it's pretty amazing to see it in that little microcosm of the weekend. It's really cool.
It is. And there's a guy that talks about seeing things as finite, which is how we usually focus on life tasks and things, the finite parts. People apply to college, but trying to create their own business is a whole other story, because applying to college, there's an end, there's an application, people say yes or no, and you're done,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
attracts us, right?
Mhm.
Whereas like starting your own business, hui,
Oh,
where's the
man.
end? So
Yeah.
switching it, the hackathon sort of like takes that and squishes it for you, and to give
Yeah,
that sort of
totally.
stimulus. It's really funny. Lisa, have you, did you have anything in particular that made you enjoy starting your business? Wow, it was that great.
So we started our company in March of 2008. And then the market crashed.
Yeah. The or not progress.
Yeah, so that was awesome. It was a very miserable 2 years.
I'm trying.
Didn't help that my business partner and I were
Double
moving
dummy.
from, we're trying to move into a more professional relationship. So we started this company when we were actually still dating and living together.
Yeah.
So
Real
it
life.
was a really rough time in starting a company, just because, you know, businesses were going, you know, we're failing left and right. A lot of our colleagues were going out of business because all of the firms, all of the companies that were clients of their firm were going out of business. My credit got completely and utterly trashed. I had to borrow money from my sister to pay rent. It was horrific. But we
Are proficient at finances.
Huh?
You are proficient at finances, all parts.
You know, you kind of have to be when you start your own company from nothing. I started it with what little money I cashed out of my 401k and stock sales when I left into it.
Oh.
Yeah. So that was my seed money. And then of course my business partner, you know, he put some money in as well. But you know, here we are. And so all of this to say, it was a miserable time for all of us. You know, those years right after the market crash, the economy was horrible everywhere. And, you know, so we started, I mean, most of the businesses that we were helping were people who had gotten laid off and they couldn't find a job. So they were like, hey, let me start a business in this thing that I'm really good at.
Yeah.
And
that's cool.
Yeah, so we had tons of startups. And then we also picked up some businesses that were just, you know, literally one-man shops or one-woman shops, as the case may be.
Hey.
And what's really been amazing is I've had, you know, I mean, the great thing about small business is everybody's different. And so a lot of my clients that, you know, I started out with in those deep, dark years are now, I wouldn't say they're huge companies, but I mean, I've got like one client, it was just one truck that, it's a plumbing company, and it was one truck that the plumber went on calls when he felt like it. But now things have changed, and now it's a company with multiple trucks. There's like 10 plus employees, and so you can see, what's great about that is you can see like the impact, not just on people who are building their own dreams, you know, of having their own company, or, you know, doing things that they never thought. So, you know, it's really rewarding to see that.
And you're along with them the whole way, like to see all that.
Some of them I've been with them for, some of them have been my clients for like, I have one who's been my client for 11 years now.
Yeah. And
I've seen them grow from, you know, almost failing. Like she's openly told people that we saved her company. And without us, she would have had to go back and find, you know, she would have had to go work in an office or something.
Yeah.
But we completely turned her company around. So it's really great to see that, and it's really great to see the impact on the economy of the local community, because that was one thing that we were seeing
Really?
a lot in those early years. We were all struggling to survive, and we used to joke in one of my networking groups that we were just passing like the same $100 around, because I would pay the IT guy,
Yeah.
and then he would turn around and pay, you know, somebody else in the group, and then suddenly that $100 would come back to me, and it was the same. It was actually really cool to see that too, because
Yeah.
so that, I guess, is what I would say is where the joy is seeing people build businesses that positively impact our communities and, you know, bring jobs to people. And, you know, all the money it is here, you know, it's not going somewhere else. Not that that's not important too.
So, did you ever feel like the first scenario, did you ever feel like it was sort of like a game, like that there was high stakes, but that it was sort of like enjoyable, that you were like figuring things out? Or did it always feel sort of stressful, but you felt involved?
The first 2 years, what kept me going was the thought of having to go back to the corporate world.
Yeah.
It wasn't fun. It wasn't a game.
Right.
It was super high stress, super high stakes. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't plan to start a company. It was just something my business partner had been toying with and had not really found a good business partner to, you know, run a company with. And I was like, hey, you know, I think I might be able to do this, because again, the thought of not going back to the corporate world was super appealing. But now, you know, as I'm not saying I know everything. I mean, that's the fun thing about being a small business owner, is you learn something new all the time. It's fun every day.
Oh, fun.
You know, fun in that.
Taken loosely sometimes.
You know, fun in that whole, you know, basic training was fun kind of way. Yeah, sure.
Did you do basic training?
Yes, I did. Everyone was like, oh, that must have been great. No, it wasn't.
Rob, was that great?
No, I would agree that it's fun in its own way. Like,
it's fun in a very special way. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Sometimes during tax season, I get reminiscent for all the sleep I got during basic. But, you know, all of that to say is that it's hard to think of it as a game when you do what I do.
Right. Well, it's so important to so many people, right?
Yeah.
And it's so foundational. But another thing to think about, and I'm going to move on to someone else in just a moment here, but I want to touch on something. You talked about 2008 crash, and these people were like, well, I lost everything anyway. What have I got to lose?
Yes.
That's kind of like the game mentality of like, you know, well, you know, can only be up or sideways from here, really.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. You know, a lot of them were like that, and they just, they were just looking for something to do, and some of them actually became pretty successful.
That's cool. And other ones hopefully learned from stuff, right?
Yeah, some of them learned, some of them didn't. I could write a book on the ones that didn't.
Oh, see? That's the cool thing, is you get to see so much, especially with the financial job. Rob, in your situation, so you're a mortgage originator is the fancy word for it, which just basically means, and you probably told everyone else, it basically means you help people figure out how they're going to finance their house, right? Whereas Lisa, you're about financing your business.
Yeah, basically, you know, we do all of the compliance so that we can, you know, keep people out of prison, but mostly, yeah, what we do is help people do their cash flow, their infrastructure plans.
Cool. Thanks. And so, Rob, how have you seen this also, like when you're working with people, again, you know, like Lisa, you know, you're not talking about a game specifically, but have you found, because your tagline is, you know, you're not like, you know, the straight professional guy. Your tagline is your bow tie guy, right? You know, which used to be straight line.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's part of the fun of it is being able to have put on the sales hat, the marketing hat, and
Yeah.
going out there and shaking hands and kissing babies, or we did at one time before.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, like that
Frowned on.
that part of it is a game, I guess you could say, if you're going to call anything a game. And in my industry is having fun with going out and meeting people, and like starting the little charity thing that I had with Cakes for Kids and stuff like that was pretty fun.
Yeah, that's a great example. Tell me about that one a bit more.
Oh yeah, so it was essentially like I was a middleman, and the idea was to get a win-win-win where I would pair up a kids charity, right, obviously, and then with a brewery and say, hey, brewery, do you want to have like a charity night on, hopefully like a Wednesday night on somewhere time where you don't normally have a lot of business as it is anyways, and donate 10% of your proceeds, $1 per pint, whatever they want to do to this charity. And then obviously we're promoting it, we're getting all the like people to come as much as possible to that night so that that charity can then, you know, get that money. So it's a win for the charity, win for the brewery, for the exposure, and, you know, win for me and
Yeah,
my face and my bow tie out there.
and your bow tie. And the best thing is, if you're doing your business right, it's a win for your client.
Well, yeah, I mean, well, I guess like it depends on like who you mean by my client, I guess, because a lot of times I would pair up with like a realtor partner, which if you're familiar with like the real estate ecosystem, that's sort of how things go. You go out to find a house to buy, who you talk to first, right? Who are you gonna go to on a car lot? You're not really talking to finance people first, right? So yeah, obviously I sort of get a lot of referral business from realtors, insurance people get referrals from me, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, like that would be the win in that regards, is pairing up with realtor partners. That would be like my client, if you will, outside of like my actual borrower clients.
So you consider your client really to be the realtor that helps people find a great service like you.
Right, yeah. Because I mean, at the end of the day, if realtors don't know me, then I don't really get a whole lot of business.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So I really like that. You know, the kids, the brewery, and you know, like everything else, just like sort of putting everything together, and in a way that's like, you know, this is enjoyable, but there's also like some serious stuff going on here that we're finding solutions to.
You miss a closing date, and there's a lot more than just the sellers not getting their money and the buyers maybe having to miss a weekend or something.
But if you focus just on that, would you ever tie the two ropes together?
Yeah, right. I don't know, man. Like,
I mean, you might, but boy, what a stressful life, right?
to think about for sure. Yeah.
So, Janet, you do counseling, and as I think about it, like, do you see that that holds a lot of people up sometimes? Is the stress, they focus too much on the stressful stuff instead of, like, you know, they have to take a break from it at some point so that they can let their brain move. Is that right? Or
are you referring to the pandemic before or during or after?
I'm talking about anything you want to give.
I think counseling services are gonna I think that counseling is going to change with the pandemic. Before the pandemic, I saw people coming in with a variety of things, especially couples, and I saw, you know, like what I'm seeing now. While I did some telehealth, and it has been limited, but I had my agencies closed, even though we didn't have to. We're considered essential workers, but people were really coming in sick. With the telehealth, I find that those who are anxious after the initial anxiety are doing okay because they are in a closeted environment where they feel protected and close to their family. Those that were not anxious, I find them more anxious because they're worried more about their future, money, finances. Depression is just starting to kick in for people, I believe, that don't know what their future holds. Yeah. And then the oldsters, like me, I think I find them more worried about the lack of freedoms they feel that they are going to be losing with the way we have to live.
Yeah.
You don't realize how much you need it until you don't have it. And so it really depends on the initial problem versus what's going on at home versus what they think the future will hold. Nobody really wants to believe the news, but everybody wants to believe the news. So with that confusion and mixed message that's coming across, it creates some angst. Do I see some people increasing drinking? Yes. Do I see some people sneaking social distancing or not? However you look at it, yes. I see the big turn at Mother's Day. Up till Mother's Day, I saw, and especially Michigan, we were pretty hard hit. Everybody pretty much social distancing, following the rules. After Mother's Day, what I found is that if you had a mom, everybody went to visit her. If it was, across the country, no, but if you were local, you could go visit mom. At that point, I think social distancing values changed. So knowing all those things, it's like there's no like cookie response you can give to it. It really depends on where their head was before and where they think it will be after. But generally speaking, if people were anxious, they're less anxious now because they're at home and they're feeling safer and they can watch everybody. Nobody's leaving home. That's just kind of a barrier to them. I think it's going to be harder when things go back to maybe our new abnormal and they have to let go again.
Yeah. Huh. Well, that's really insightful. Thanks. Yeah. So in this case, you're saying that it sounds like what you're saying too is that actually being anxious, like, recognizing all the stressful parts is really very helpful, especially if you do it at first.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
As opposed to like looking at it as a game the whole damn time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the people that still think it's a hoax and nobody's really dying.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's another thing in there. But the other folks who kind of like blew it off at the beginning then are facing more stressful things now because they didn't handle some of the stuff that would have lightened their load now as far as stress goes.
And again, I find most of my clients pretty insightful. If they're going to work with me after a while, we get that way together.
Yeah.
Because I grow through my clients as well as I hope they grow through me.
Yeah.
But I find more of my neighbors who have not been touched by the pandemic. Either no one was sick or no one has died. They are the ones that kind of like act like wearing a mask is something that other people need to do, not them. And, so that's what I see. If it has directly touched your life, you are changed forever. If it has not touched your life, you are living in, I guess you could say, purgatory of a sort because you don't know where to go.
Huh. Oh, that sounds terrible.
I hope not. I hope there's life on the other side, but it concerns me when I see things taken down from YouTube and things like that are meant to help people.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate everybody's insights. I've got about 5 minutes here to wrap things up, and I want to hang up with this phone that started ringing. 1-800 number anyway, so we'll see. Anyway, I love talking more with all of you, and I actually have a couple meetings set up with a couple of you, so that's pretty exciting. So I'm going to wrap up with a few things here, and thank you everyone for your insights. The talking about 2008 and how you got to grow with people there was really cool. And Richard, I've been hearing parts of your story this whole time, and every time I'm like, oh wow, cool. And of course, Rob, thanks again for coming back, and Janet, it's good to see you. And it was really insightful stuff about like thinking about just for me in this, because I would say I'm more on the side of like I haven't had someone directly affected, like dying of COVID, but I've heard like it's secondhand. Recently, I just heard of somebody that I knew who died, and that just hearing it as sort of an overview of someone who's been talking to people personally, that was really thank you for sharing that in a strong confidential way. This is, what am I sharing? I have a share screen here, but I don't know which one I'm sharing because I got it. Is this the screen I'm sharing?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I got this down, guys. Anyway, so the links, here's some things that are going on. Actually, this Kick-Ass Entrepreneurs happened last night. But they'll be doing another one sometime in a month or so, and then 1 million cups ABQ. So if I move my screen like this, do you guys still see that screen that was sharing?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Because I did something on the back side here where I'm looking at different screens so I can copy these links and paste them into the chat. And then I also have another thing that I'd like to share with you all. Some of you may have heard of Stacy Sacco. Richard in the 1 Million Cups, and Lisa possibly too, in the 1 Million Cups audience, you may have seen him. NM Links, maybe it's called NM Links. Anyway, it's a really neat list of things going on in the world. NM Links, here we are. And well, when I say the world, I mean New Mexico. So, Jen, this may not be quite as neat to you, but since so many things are virtual, maybe it would be. NM Links. So what he has here is, a while ago, he got tired of people talking about how bad New Mexico was, you know, top in crime and this and that. And he's like, you know, we're #1 in a lot of ways. And so things to do for retirees, kids, inquiries. This is a great thing for all sorts of activities. And he himself works at UNM SBI, which is Small Business Institute. And so he has some really good stuff for, is this really him? I don't think this is his. No, this is too fancy. This is, huh? Anyway, this is cool. Oh, wait. Small business resources. Maybe it
I
is.
think it was. I saw his name on there, Stacy.
Wow. He's made it look more
Somewhere.
smooth since I last been here. Yeah. So entrepreneurial ecosystem. I bet this is the one. Anyway, I've also been added to his list somewhere. Oh, and as you may have seen, you do download each of these, and it's like an Excel sheet. So that's kind of the less savvy part. But then he can just upload a new one whenever he gets new stuff on there. But if you are looking for activities or things to do, or especially towards business, this is a great resource. So I'll put that on NM Links on the chat. I meant to look at that before. Where's my chat? Oh, it's down here. Before this meeting, but only so much can happen in one day. So there's that link. Great. And then I'll go back to my little presentation here. And so next week, my topic is going to be curiosity versus confidence, because and this comes from the idea that as an entrepreneur, often you'll hear this advice that you need to be confident and this is and you don't tell them about your past or the fact that you're only been working for a year, whatever. You give it sort of an ambiance of I know everything. In my particular business, it's really handy to be curious. So I'm hoping to talk to people about that a bit more, and what's the difference of those two and how that works for them. And hopefully I'm confident in my curiosity. I don't know, something like that. Anyway, so thank you all for joining. And I look forward to talking to you more in all sorts of ways. And I hope that you keep the sparks flowing.